Ryan Gravenberch. Yes, we're back again, man. I recently did a video actually last month. I think it was around about the same time. Make sure you guys check it out. Talking about Ryan Gravenberch, this was before the season had kicked off, and wanted to kind of rap about what was next, for him in terms of how does he get better, how does he develop and all these kind of things. And I think one of the main things was just more about the consistency with him, in terms of his actual play when he's on fire. When he's at his best, I feel like Gravenberch is one of the better midfielders out there. But it was just more about the consistency for me, and so far this season I will definitely have to say he has been somewhat consistent. um, Probably say I would actually say the Arsenal game. I don't really think he was all that, but listen, the team weren't really that good. And on top of that as well, I have to caveat that the team haven't actually been that good overall this season. So it's quite difficult trying to pinpoint one specific player and saying this, that, and the third. But yeah, I think you guys can see the title. I think one of the main things is that I wanted to know: do you guys think he's underrated, overrated, perfectly rated? So perfectly rated being no, he's rated exactly how he should be in your eyes, whatever that actually is. Yeah, let me know in the comment section. I would love to know how people kind of view, Ryan Gravenberch at this moment in time. I saw this as well. No Premier League midfielder has a higher defensive dual win rate than Ryan Gravenberch, which is 84.6. So you can see Longstaff is on there, Bentancur, Tavernier, Caicedo, got really great names in there. But listen, he's top of that list, and you'd rather be top of the list than at the bottom of the list. I will, tell you that for free. And yeah, man, it's Gravenberch is Gravenberch, and I fully understand why people rate him so highly. I do get it. There are times when you watch him. We saw against Burnley anyway. In terms of his actual performance in that game. Again, it I don't look. Well, it's weird because I don't know what Arne Slot is asking him to do necessarily. I'm not there on the training pitch, so on one hand, I'm like, yeah, I don't think you were like so good in the game in terms of, oh my God, you were bossing it, you were doing this, that, and the third. But on the flip side, none of the midfielders were, and they haven't been really this season, kind of thing. And again, I don't know what their role kind of is, especially his as well. I always find that his role is a bit of a weird one in terms of what Arne Slot is actually asking him to do, wants him to do, how he kind of sees it, in a general kind of sense. So yeah, like I said, it was a decent performance. I think there was that skill that he did and all of that. Everyone got gassed. And listen, if he's got that in his locker, keep that in your locker. Do you know what I mean? Because that might be what more people are going to be interested in terms of how they look at a player and aesthetically pleasing and stuff like that. He does remind me of a Pogba. I will definitely say that. He does definitely remind me of a Pogba. I don't think he's reached a Pogba level, but listen, he's definitely well on his way, in regards to into reaching that, into becoming a midfielder who can be dominant, within games. Like people have said, like Yaya Toure, it'll be difficult because Yaya was built like a unit and Ryan Gravenberch isn't. Yaya Toure was technically proficient. He could pass, he could shoot, he had a bit of skill about him. The technical ability on Yaya Toure was absolutely immense. And if I'm being honest, everybody was absolutely shit scared of him. Do you know what I mean? And listen, not you don't have to be that, by the way. But when people mention comparisons with a Yaya Toure, I'm like, yeah, maybe not Yaya Toure. I think he's more in the Paul Pogba mold in terms of, you know, how he plays the game and how he moves and glides across a pitch. Maybe just because of their height and their long limbs and stuff like that. I don't know, but that's the way I kind of look at it. Not really a Yaya. Yaya was honestly, he was built like a unit. It'd be difficult for you to to be that kind of player, kind of thing, unless he just started to bulk up and then he just turned into this kind of player. But yeah, at the moment I don't really see that. Another thing as well, Yaya was very versatile, very, very versatile as a player. Could play centre back, defensive midfield, central midfield, attacking midfield, up front. He could play everywhere. All across that spine of the team, Yaya Toure could play in that position. I don't think someone like Gravenberch could play further forward, so to speak, and be good in that area. Not saying that obviously any player can play anywhere, but just yeah, I don't think he can really play that further forward and be like, oh my goodness, like yeah, he's sick in these attacking areas. I'm like, no, I think the position that he plays now in our team especially, I think that's perfect for him to just kind of continue that. My only kind of gripe, I guess, with someone, this is obviously his stats from obviously last season, but my only would I say there's not many negatives. And I'm really not even here to do the negative thing in that kind of regards. I'm more here to ask the question for you guys in the comment section, yeah, to let me know. My only thing with Gravenberch is that one thing that annoys me about the way that he plays at this moment in time is he's good at interceptions, he's good at tackling, he's good at kind of reading the game from a defensive kind of aspect, right? He himself is good at that, which kind of begs the question as to why Liverpool look so vulnerable. But listen, that might just be a tactical thing at this point, right? When Ryan Gravenberch does his famous and his infamous, turn, half turn, all the, when he does that, everyone's like, oh my God, like, and it's really, really great. My gripe is that after he does that, he doesn't do anything. It's his decision making at times, and I'll be honest, it's majority of times I look at his decision making, and again, this is what we were saying about what's next. How can he take his game to the next level? And by the way, I'm not asking him to be at that. Well, I am asking him to be at that level, but I don't expect it, so to speak, because he's still got a lot of learning and developing to do. Every time, more or less, he does that turn, it's like I don't know. It's he passes to like the nearest player all the time. It's like he just wants to get rid of it. He's done the turn. It's like he's done the hard part, obviously, which is the turn in itself. He's gotten away. Then it's like, yeah, I'll just pass to the next guy there. And sometimes I sit there and think that's why I don't compare you really to a Yaya Toure. Yaya Toure will continue running. Yaya Toure would make a better decision going forward, whether it's the right pass, which is going to then lead to a goal or something like that. That's what Yaya Toure would do. And again, by the way, like I said, we need to wait for him to obviously get into that kind of position. Paul Pogba, the same thing. Paul Pogba's decision making, especially when he was at his best, I would say maybe at Juventus and maybe the year that he won the World Cup, I would say like that kind of period for Paul Pogba. When he was at his best, it was the decision making, and I think that's what makes uh, that's one of the differences, not the difference, but one of the differences between players of a certain level and world class elite players. It's the decision making that they do make. Do you know what I mean? In those decisive moments, they always make the right decision, or majority of the time, they do make that right decision. At the moment, I don't really see that with Ryan Gravenberch in terms of now, and again, could be a tactical thing. Again, I don't really know. I don't really care, to be honest with you, because if I'm just looking at it in terms of how I would rate him and stuff like that, I think he's very good. Listen, as much as I've bantered about it, he last season, I still think people did overrate it in terms of how they kind of viewed it last season. He was good for the first half of the season. He was poor for the second half of the season. Whatever your excuse is, you can throw that in there. That's absolutely fine. But he was still poor. That's the factual thing behind it, kind of thing. So when I'm looking at it now, obviously for him to then be considered to be someone who's of a higher level, he needs to be able to keep that up for at least 80% of the season, because that's usually what the top players do. 80% of a season dotted around overall, they're usually performing at the highest level. For me, Ryan Gravenberch didn't really do that. It was like 50 to 60% of the time, and then the other 40%. And again, it's not about he has to do it and what you expect and blah. No. It's if you're going to rate him like he's someone who is doing that, we need to then be honest with each other. And I just think that Liverpool fans, we just weren't really honest in terms of our assessment on Ryan Gravenberch last season. This season so far, he has been good. I would say, yeah, no, he's been absolutely calm. I don't have, like I said, there's no real gripe with him in that kind of sense. And again, this video really wasn't for that, but it was just more for, just trying to look at where everybody kind of looks at him. How do they kind of rank him? How do they kind of rate him? Like, I don't know if you want to, like, if I could really ask, okay, do you think he's the best defensive midfielder? I still think it's Caicedo. I still think Caicedo is a better defensive midfielder. But they're both quite different in terms of how their natural styles of play. But if I had to pick one, I would probably pick, Moises Caicedo. But that's just me and my own preference. That's not to say if you picked Ryan Gravenberch, I can moan about that. I'm not going to argue with anybody who does say he is. I don't think he's one of the best midfielders in the world. I think there are a host of other midfielders out there who are better than Ryan Gravenberch. But again, it's just about he still needs to get there. Once he gets to that kind of level, I think he'll be fine. But yeah, as I said before, it's just that decision making after that turn. It just always seems to be you do that turn, highlight reel, pass the ball. And then that's kind of it. You get away from a player, pass the ball. It's like it's always highlight reel. People like, and I've seen it all, this morning and all that kind of stuff. Saw it yesterday, saw it, after the game against Burnley. A lot of highlight reels, not many compilations necessarily looking so much about how he affected the game in whatever way. It wasn't really about that. It was, again, the highlight reels, the turn away from play. And again, aesthetically, he looks like a world-class elite player, aesthetically. I can definitely admit that. When you look at the way he plays and his style of play, 100%. But when I'm actually watching him play, I'm like, yeah, but we're not really. There's a difference. There's a difference, let's say, between, say, him and a Pedri, for example. Pedri affects games. I don't look at Gravenberch and think in the way that he's performed at all since he's been at Liverpool. Let's just even just use last season. Forget the season before that under Klopp. If you just look at last season, I don't really look at him like that in terms of a player who's affecting the game in that kind of way. Do you know what I mean? Whereas a Pedri does that. You know, the ball goes through Pedri. The game goes through Pedri because of the qualities that he's got, and he can open things up. He can control that tempo. Gravenberch doesn't really do that. Again, like I said, Gravenberch is almost like he's almost just like another midfielder that you've got in the team. It's like you're not the most important one, but we need you in there to do this kind of thing. And then because we've got you in there, we've got Dominic Szoboszlai, who we need him in there to do. Yeah, it's not really. And this is more, I guess, for me, of a problem in terms of Liverpool going out there to actually sign that midfielder. If you sign that midfielder, play him alongside a Gravenberch, I think then you start to unlock different parts of Gravenberch that maybe he didn't even know that he had at the moment. And again, this is not his fault. This is more the club's fault. At the moment, Liverpool haven't done that, and they haven't got that midfielder in there who can then allow for either Szoboszlai, either Ryan Gravenberch, either Alexis McAllister, whichever one you guys want to put there. It hasn't allowed for them to really be unlocked, and I think that's what's kind of holding some of these players back. Is that ultimately you guys are playing within it? It's just a bunch of individuals who've kind of just been put together, and individually they do their own kind of thing. Does that help towards the team in any kind of way? At times, of course it does. Liverpool did win the Premier League last season, so clearly it helped towards something. But I do look at it and think, yeah, that like but they're performing at like this good level. But I wouldn't go any higher than that, kind of thing. And I think that's where I jump in, and I'm like, nah, I don't. Liverpool don't own a world class midfielder, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not that deep at the end of the day. But I do think when people try to mention that, oh, he is, and one of the first things is, well, look at the way he does that turn. It's like, yeah, highlight reels. Just say you like the highlight reels as opposed to what he's actually doing within the game and how he's affecting the game in any such kind of way. And as I said, my only thing with him is just purely the decision making after he does the highlight reel. If that can improve, I honestly, with the way that he looks like he's going in terms of his trajectory, he'll be one of the top three midfielders in world football in next to no time. I think that's just all he really needs to improve. Well, there's other things, but like I don't know, that might be just me asking for too much, like in terms of his decision making in and around the box, like his shooting and stuff like that. Obviously got that goal against Newcastle. That's maybe something he could improve, but I mean, yeah, it's one of those. I'm not really getting onto you for that. Like, I don't care that if you score or don't score, kind of thing. It'd be nice for you to score, but I'm not gonna penalize you for that. But that might be something he might potentially look at. But it is more just about the decision making. There are times when he should be shooting and he doesn't shoot. He should be passing and he shoots. Like, again, it's just decision making at times. That's for me the difference between players of this level and players of a higher level. Once he gets that, Ryan Gravenberch will absolutely, become a real top player. But again, listen, still young. I think he's 23, 24 or something like that. Still on that kind of trajectory. Like I said, just I guess it's just really about the expectations that you put on these players and how you kind of see these players. Where do you kind of rank these players? And I think what kills it for some of these players, especially in today's football, is we're always looking for comparisons. We're always trying to compare to this guy, that guy. And listen, I do it myself sometimes. When I'm thinking about a player, even Ryan Gravenberch, just thinking about players, and I'm like, nah, but in comparison to such and such, like heck, I just mentioned Pedri just there. Do you know what I mean? That's because he's a world class midfielder. And he plays in that kind of similar position to a Ryan Gravenberch. So when we then talk about Ryan Gravenberch, I'm like, okay, why would I consider Pedri world class, but you're not world class? What do you need to do that Pedri's already doing in order for you to get to that kind of level? What are you doing, or what are you not doing that Rodri's doing? Because Rodri, again, is another world class, midfielder. What is it that you're doing or not doing that KDB is considered a world class midfielder? Jude Bellingham, a world class midfielder. Vitinha, a world class midfielder. If you look at the kind of common denominator from all of them, they all control games. They all control games. Pedri for Barca, Rodri for City, Jude Bellingham, obviously, when he's in there, for Real Madrid. Who else did I say? Vitinha for PSG. They all control game. The game goes through them. They affect the game, and their decision making for the majority of time is world class. It's elite. That's what Ryan Gravenberch needs to do in order to get himself into those kind of conversations, and then we can start, talking about this, that, and the third. So yeah, I think that's really it. I would love to know, do you guys think, as I mentioned before, under, over, perfectly rated? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. This should be an interesting one because I know a lot of people are going to be in their feelings, but let me know what you guys think regardless. Anyway, and I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.